There's a rule every investigator learns early in their career. Every space has a purpose. A bedroom is for rest, a kitchen is for living, and every room exists for a reason. But sometimes you walk into a place that breaks that rule completely. A place where the layout doesn't make sense, where walls don't match the blueprint, and spaces exist that no one ever built. People who've seen places like that rarely talk about them, because most don't come back. 2 nights ago, a family of 4 vanished from a quiet suburban house. No forced entry, no struggle, no signs of violence, just silence. Dinner was left on the table, lights still on, doors locked from the inside. It was as if they were there one moment, and gone the next. Detective Aaron Blake had seen strange cases before, but this one felt different, because the moment he stepped inside that house, it didn't feel empty. It felt like something inside was already watching him, and that's when he noticed the wall. Some houses are built to protect what's inside, while others are built to hide it. This was not just another missing persons case. There were no signs of struggle, no forced entry, and no evidence left behind. Just a house that looked completely normal from the outside. But inside, something didn't add up. The layout felt wrong. The silence was heavier than it should be, and the deeper it was examined, the more it felt like the house was hiding something. Not something lost, something concealed. Every structure follows logic. Every wall has a purpose, and every room exists for a reason. But this place broke all of those rules. Somewhere inside it, there was a space that wasn't supposed to exist at all. The room that shouldn't exist. And when that hidden space was finally discovered, it didn't just reveal what was missing. It revealed that something else had been there all along. And it all started with the hallway was silent, almost unnaturally still, as if the house itself was holding its breath. At the far end, the wall stood exactly where it should have been, blending into the structure with quiet confidence. At first glance, there was nothing unusual about it. No cracks, no marks, no visible damage. And yet something about it felt wrong. The longer it was observed, the more that feeling grew stronger, creeping in slowly, impossible to ignore. It wasn't something obvious or easy to explain, but it carried a quiet discomfort, like a detail that didn't belong in the bigger picture. The wall didn't stand out, but it didn't fit either. The closer the wall was examined, the more the differences began to reveal themselves. At first it was subtle, almost easy to miss, but once noticed, it became impossible to ignore. The texture didn't match the rest of the hallway. It felt smoother, slightly different under the light, as if it had been altered more recently than everything around it. Even the color carried a faint variation, just enough to stand out without drawing immediate attention. There were no visible brushstrokes, no signs of rushed work. Instead, it looked precise, controlled, almost too perfect. This wasn't damage being covered, it was something being hidden. Looking at it more closely, the realization settled in. This wall was not part of the original structure. It didn't align perfectly with the design of the house, and its placement disrupted the natural flow of the space. It existed where it logically shouldn't, and yet it stood there seamlessly, hiding whatever lay behind it without drawing immediate suspicion. It felt like a piece added later, not to improve the house, but to conceal something within it. When the surface was tapped lightly, the sound that came back was not solid. Instead of a dull thud, it echoed softly, carrying a hollow resonance that shouldn't have been there. The sound revealed something hidden, an empty space behind it, and that single detail changed everything, turning quiet curiosity into something far more unsettling. According to the layout of the house, There shouldn't have been anything behind that wall. No room, no storage, not even a narrow gap. The structure didn't allow for it. Every visible measurement said the same thing. There was no space left. And yet, the hollow echo suggested otherwise, hinting at something that existed outside the logic of the house itself. With a slight push, the wall shifted. It didn't open like a normal door. It moved slowly, unnaturally, as if it had been forced into place rather than designed to function. The movement felt wrong, like disturbing something that had been sealed away. It wasn't just a hidden entrance. It felt like uncovering something that was never meant to be found. As the wall moved further, a wave of cold air rushed out. It wasn't fresh or clean. It was heavy still, and strangely dense. It carried a sense of age with it, like air that had been trapped and forgotten for years. There was no movement within it, no sign of life, just a quiet, lingering presence that made the space feel older than it should have been. Beyond the wall, there was only darkness, not the kind that comes from a lack of light, but something deeper, something that seemed to absorb it completely. Even the faintest illumination struggled to push into it. It wasn't just empty space. It felt like something that existed on its own, stretching further than it should. Stepping inside didn't feel natural. The passage was narrow, tighter than expected, with walls that seemed closer than they should be. The space created an immediate sense of discomfort, as if it wasn't meant for people at all. It felt restrictive, controlled, like something designed not for movement, but for containment. Each step produced a sound, but the echo behaved strangely. It lingered longer than expected, stretching into the darkness as if the space refused to let it fade. The sound didn't return cleanly. It felt distorted, delayed, almost alive in the way it moved through the passage. The air inside felt thick and heavy, pressing subtly against every breath. It wasn't suffocating, but it wasn't normal either. There was a weight to it, an unnatural density that made the space feel occupied, even though nothing could be clearly seen. As the passage continued, distance became harder to judge. A few steps felt longer than they should have, and the sense of direction began to blur. The space didn't behave logically. It felt as though it was stretching, subtly changing with every movement, making it impossible to trust what was real. At the end of the passage, there was a room, small, enclosed, and completely silent. The silence itself felt unnatural, as if sound had been removed rather than absent. It wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, oppressive, and absolute. The walls were covered in scratches, hundreds of them, deep, uneven, overlapping each other in chaotic patterns. They weren't random marks. They carried intention, urgency, desperation. Each line felt like an attempt, repeated over and over again, leaving behind a visible record of struggle. Looking closer, patterns began to emerge. Movements could be traced, directions followed. The marks told a story, not in words, but in repetition. Something had been there, trying again and again to escape, and failing every time. At the center of the room sat a chair, metal, cold, and firmly fixed in place. It wasn't positioned randomly. It was placed with purpose, facing forward into nothing, yet somehow becoming the focus of the entire space. The chair showed signs of wear, but not neglect. It wasn't abandoned. It hadn't been forgotten. Its condition suggested use, recent use. This place wasn't just old, it was active. On the floor nearby there was a recorder, small, dust-covered, yet still intact. It looked out of place, yet important, like something left behind intentionally. The recorder carried meaning. It suggested that someone had been there before, someone who had seen the same space and left something behind. It wasn't just an object, it was a warning waiting to be understood. Then, the silence broke. A faint sound, subtle but undeniable. A step, not from within the room, but from somewhere behind. The space changed almost instantly. The passage no longer looked the same. It stretched further than before, deeper into darkness. The environment felt unstable, as if it was shifting into something unfamiliar and uncontrollable. And then, there was something else, not clearly visible, not fully formed, but undeniably present, a presence in the darkness, still, silent, and aware. It didn't move like anything human, it simply existed, watching, and in that moment, it became clear. This wasn't just a hidden room, it was something else entirely. Darkness didn't move, but it wasn't still either. It felt aware, present, as if it had been there long before the room was ever discovered. The air grew heavier with every passing second, pressing down in a way that made it harder to think, harder to react. The space behind no longer felt like a passage. It felt like something alive, shifting slowly, closing in without making a sound. The presence in the darkness began to take shape, not fully, not clearly, but enough to be understood. It wasn't standing in the room, it was part of it. Its form blended with the shadows, stretching unnaturally, existing in places where nothing should exist. It didn't approach in a way that could be seen. It simply became closer, as if distance no longer mattered. And then, something far more unsettling became clear. The scratches on the walls weren't just attempts to escape. They were attempts to warn. Every mark, every line, every desperate movement carved into the surface was never meant to break out, but to tell something, to leave behind a message that no one would understand until it was too late. The chair in the center of the room wasn't placed there to hold someone. It was placed there to keep something contained, or perhaps to offer something in return. The restraints weren't meant to stop movement. They were meant to keep someone exactly where the room needed them to be, because whatever existed in that darkness didn't take people the way anyone would expect. It didn't drag them away. It didn't leave behind bodies. It replaced them, slowly, quietly, perfectly. The house was never empty. The people who disappeared were never truly gone. The structure remained the same. The rooms stayed in place. The walls stood where they should, but something inside had changed. Something unseen had taken their place, becoming part of the house itself. And the hidden room wasn't a prison. It was the center of it all. The moment that realization settled in, the space shifted again. The passage behind no longer looked familiar. The distance stretched endlessly, and the walls seemed closer than before. The exit wasn't where it had been. In fact, it no longer existed at all. The room had closed, not physically, but completely. There was no way out anymore, because the moment the wall was opened, something else had been allowed to step out, and whatever was left behind was never meant to leave. Some rooms aren't hidden to keep people out. They're hidden to keep something in. If you ever find yourself in a place where something feels off, where the structure doesn't make sense, where the silence feels heavier than it should, don't ignore it, because sometimes the things you don't notice at first are the ones that were never meant to be found. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe for more dark and unexplained cases, because this isn't the only place where something like this exists.